Chapter 7.7 More Black Pond by Frank. Minnow and I were suddenly ejected out of a rock wall into a weird green pond. There was a night sky above us full of stars, and the green pond was surrounded by pampas grass. I had no idea how we'd emerged from way under the black pond into the fresh air. The sound of frogs was all around us. Their croaking made a wall of weird humming as I sat there feeling like a frog, opening and shutting my mouth, breathing in and out in sheer relief. Minnow's lips were blue as she also drank in huge mouthfuls of air. I thought it was night time, the sky was so dark, but after a while I realised that we weren't outside at all. We were in some sort of a cave, and the pampas grass was actually a circle of stalagmites. Finally, I could see that the stars were actually glowworms on the roof of the cave, and as my eyes adjusted, I could see heaps of stalactites as well. I sent a silent wish that none of them would fall down and spear us. "Don't move," I said, gesturing to Minnow to look up. "I don't want to disturb any of those." Minnow nodded. "How come there are frogs in an underwater cave?" "Who knows?" "What are we supposed to do?" asked Minnow. "Catch our breath," I said. "That was awful." "I know," said Minnow. "Not much time to open all the doors and windows of our cells." "Horrible," I said. "It was more like keep everything shut in case you drown." Minnow gave a deep sigh. "At least we know that Sky survived," said Minnow. "And Blizzard and Jax," I added. "And I bet that Miguel's been in here too." "Even without the use of his legs?" asked Minnow, sounding doubtful. As I spoke, a yellow bullfrog leapt out of the water and sat on a stalagmite near us. Its main vocal sac went in and out as it croaked, and every so often the two sacs on the other side of the main one blew up like balloons of bright blue bubble gum. Its wild croaking was brilliant. Another yellow bullfrog joined the first one, and they sat croaking, staring at us. Minnow and I were transfixed. We'd never seen anything like them. The first bullfrog puffed up his blue vocal sacs and said, "Who are you?" His voice sounded like a strange little talking machine. "Minnow, and this is my cousin Frank." Minnow looked excited to be speaking to a bullfrog. The first bullfrog said, "I'm Jerry." The second one said, "I'm Jeremiah." "We know a parrot called Jeremiah," I said. "We know him too," said Jeremiah. "Stella's mate." "You know Stella?" asked Minnow. The bullfrogs stopped talking or even croaking and sat breathing and sort of bulging their vocal sacs in and out. They looked a bit worried. "Why are you here?" asked Jerry. "Not to harm Stella." "No," said Minnow, "she's our friend." The bullfrog sat breathing, unconvinced. "Why are you here?" I asked. "I asked first," said Jerry, staring up at me, blinking. "Well, we were asked to jump into the black pond," I said. "Because we want to play the time game," added Minnow. "The time game?" asked Jeremiah. I felt suddenly uneasy. What if the bullfrogs weren't our friends? What if they were spies? Minnow seemed to be reading my mind. "They can't be spies," she telepathed. "They know Stella." "They might be making up stories," I said. "We can hear you," telepathed Jerry. "Sorry," said Minnow. Chapter 7 The Bullfrogs by Frank. "Why would you want to play the time game?" asked Jerry. "Sounds boring," said Jeremiah. "Very boring," said Jerry. "More boring than very boring," said Jeremiah. So boring that it should be known as the most boring game ever, said Jerry. Minnow shrugged. Okay, she said, it might not be exciting, we don't know yet, but it's something that we'd both like to do, and we had to come into the pond because... Minnow stopped talking and looked at me. We needed to get rid of anger, I added, so we had to come into the black pond. We're not sure how it works. Both bullfrogs made a long string of bullfrog noises. And then they opened their mouths really wide and a song came out, but not a bullfrog song, a song played by people on guitars and drums and keyboards. It was one my parents loved, and so did I, because I'd heard it played all my life. It began, Jeremiah was a bullfrog, and ended up, joy to the world, all the boys and girls, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, joy to you and me. Minnow and I started to laugh. Having two yellow bullfrogs open their mouths so wide and pump their weird little blue vocal sacs to produce that song, it was too much. We couldn't stop laughing, and then we laughed some more. It was as if the air was filled with bullfrog laughing gas. We stopped worrying that the stalactites might fall down as we rolled around on the floor of that cavern, almost killing ourselves laughing. And then, right then, we don't know how, but we were back on the surface of the pond, floating in two big yellow blow-up toys in the shape of bullfrogs. Meanwhile, Jax and Blizzard were lounging on the edge of the pond in yellow bullfrog chairs. Ah, good, asked Blizzard. Everything sorted? Minnow and I burst into laughter and couldn't stop. Blizzard grinned. Time for breakfast, he said. Come on. Jax waved her arms above her head, and our pool toys sailed to the temple side of the pond. So, what did you learn? Asked Blizzard, as we headed into the temple. I'm not sure, said Minnow. Something. To be chilled, I said with a big smile. Maybe that's it. Minnow nodded. I think we definitely need to be more chilled. Sounds about right, said Jax. Such a good feeling, said Blizzard. So good, I agreed. As we entered the temple, Minnow said, Wait! Sky didn't tell me everything, but she said that there were two black cats that guard the temple. A low, long rumble crept towards us across the temple's floor. Having just come in from outside, it took a minute or two for our eyes to adjust, and when they did, Minnow and I nearly leapt out of our skins. Two sleek black panthers were prowling towards us. Their eyes had been closed, but when they snapped open, they were as green as garden peas. Blizzard, said Minnow. Frank and Minnow, I'm pleased to introduce you to Raja and Rani, said Blizzard. They are the children of Bagheera. You may have read about them in Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book. Yes, said Minnow. Hello, I'm so pleased to meet you, and I'm sorry that I was afraid. Raja growled and looked away. Don't mind him, said Rani. We are very pleased to meet you. Are you able to change your form? I asked. Are you the same cats that Sky met when she visited? Raja looked at me, his eyes unblinking. I could hear what he was saying. Of course, he said. You could do it too if you stopped wasting all your energy feeling cross and frustrated and bothering about stuff that is not worth a moment of your time, or things that deserve even less than one moment of your time and no more. Rani stared at her brother, her eyes soft and loving. They've been in the pond, she telepathed. Let them enjoy it. Raja's mouth loosened into a grin and his eyes sparkled. Do enjoy it, he telepathed, and use your brains for better things in future. Raja and Rani stalked away to lie in the sun on the terrace. I felt as if I'd been told the most important secret in the entire universe. Sometimes I used to get caught up in hating people so much that I couldn't think, and the thieves had made this tendency even worse than usual. I couldn't bear to see Sky and Ben have their lives wrecked, but Raja's words went deep into my soul, and I knew that I'd be able to turn my thinking around. No more obsessing on hatred. I looked at Minnow and could tell that she had been affected in the same way. She beamed at me, and we gave one another a high five. As our eyes adjusted to the shadows of the temple, we could see art and sculpture everywhere, and so many books. There were also words carved into the walls of the temple. One long poem caught my eye. I won't write all of it here, but I especially loved these lines. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, yours is the universe and everything that's in it. That was my favourite part. I didn't want to fear failure. I didn't want to be proud and horrible like Invictus seemed to be, wanting to win all the time, yearning to be triumphant. I wanted to be calm and happy, like Jax, like Blizzard. Just as I was thinking those thoughts, Darling appeared with coffee and chocolate and tea and fruit. She also had bread and cheese and so much more. Her kind little flamingo face made me almost die of happiness. When she saw me looking at the If poem carved into the temple walls, she said, "That was written by a wonderful man, the same man who wrote the Jungle Book." "Really?" I asked, scarcely able to believe it. "Why, of course," she said. "That's how we came to adopt Bagheera's children when he went to heaven." I smiled, never quite sure if Darling was being serious. "Thank you," I said. It seemed to be the only thing to say.